The LUMIX S5IIx has just launched, and I was chuffed to be invited to the launch of this mighty little camera a few weeks back in London. It was a ton of fun, especially as I got to meet a number of lovely YouTubers in the flesh and of course get my hands on this new camera. So moving forwards, the LUMIX S5IIx, I think I'm just going to call it the 2X from now on, is going to become my main B cam to my Komodo, and my main cam for smaller professional shoots where, you know, the Komodo might be a bit overkill. It'll also probably be the main camera that I use for my YouTube content as well. So what I love about the 2X, especially for my sort of professional workflows, is that it now comes with an array of chunky recording codecs to choose from, including all intra, as well as ProRes recording to an external SSD, as well as RAW over HDMI. And what's cool is that this is going to be available in both ProRes RAW and B-RAW. So I think for me, these additional pro recording features are really important, as it will allow me to use the 2X alongside the Komodo on professional gigs that require high spec acquisition codecs. So usually for broadcast or larger commercial jobs, being able to shoot in something like all intra or ProRes is often a requirement when delivering footage for these projects, especially if they're being sent on to edit or post houses. So previously on these sort of high spec jobs, I was relying on shooting on my Komodo, my EVA 1, because the EVA shoots in all intra. So I'm actually really excited to be able to access these professional recording codecs in a much smaller form factor with the 2X. I've only had this camera for about a week now, so I need to do a bit more testing before I put out an in-depth review. But before that happens, I just wanted to introduce you to how I'll be using and rigging this camera on professional shoots. So in terms of rigging, I've pimped up the 2X to serve as a little run and gun cine-cam. I think one of my complaints when I've previously been shooting a lot on my S5 Mark I is that it's just a little bit too light to get sort of nice stable footage with, you know, even with the excellent IBIS. So the purpose of this little CINE-RIG is, you know, obviously to add all the professional accessories and features, but also just to bulk it up and add some weight and help get nicer handheld footage, because I tend to focus on handheld shooting when I'm out and about for my projects. At the core of this is a SmallRig cage. I think a cage is vital if you're going to be using the camera in a professional setting and need to mount other accessories. It has loads of great design features. I love that it has a NATO rail built into it, allowing me to attach my top handle. I'm using this one also from SmallRig. I've had it for years and it's one of my favorites. It has this little swivel feature and a ton of mounting points, as well as two cold shoes, which are useful for mounting stuff like radio mics, stuff like that. I also like to mount my external monitor in line with the handle, so I use this little ARRI locking pin monitor mount thing, which is also from SmallRig. Do you see a theme here? And at the moment I'll be using this little 5-inch PortKeys monitor. I originally got this for my Komodo, but I ended up upgrading that to the 7-inch Shinobi, so I think this 5-inch monitor will work great with this 2X little mini CINE-RIG. What's great about the SmallRig camera cage is that it has two cold shoe mounts, so I can use one for something like a mini top mic, and I'll use the other for this little SSD Caddy. Again, this is one I'm using from SmallRig. It's a really simple piece of kit that you can use to accommodate different sized SSDs, which is how you can record high resolution ProRes on this camera. And it has a nice little sort of cable lock just to make sure that that cable is secure. In terms of external hard drives, I've just got this SanDisk Extreme hard drive. One thing to bear in mind if you are going to be shooting ProRes through an external drive on this camera, if you want to shoot in 6K ProRes 422HQ, you will need, you know, like a top speed SSD to access that because of the data rates that requires. Honestly, I don't think I'll often be shooting in HQ ProRes. I think mostly I'll be bouncing between 4K ProRes 422 and 6K ProRes 422, and then for other jobs where I just want to rely on internal media, shooting all intra codec internally. I think most often with this camera I'll be shooting with my Vespids, so I have these in EF. I adapt them with a Sigma MC21 adapter. On the bottom I've just also got this little SmallRig baseplate thing, which just allows me to mount two rods. Mostly I've done that just to give it a bit of stability, so when I set the camera down it doesn't sort of wobble around, especially with the MatteBoxe on. But then to just top this all off, I'll be using my bright Tangerine Misfit Atom MatteBoxe. This adds very little weight to the camera rig, which is great. I love it. It's perfect for smaller setups because MatteBoxes can get quite heavy, and especially on smaller rigs like this can sort of unbalance the camera a little bit. When I'm using the MatteBoxe, I'll be using my filters from Formatt-Hitech. I have a range of ND filters from them. I'm using the Firecrest ultra thin ND filters, which I absolutely love. They're fantastic, they're beautiful, and they just plug straight into this MatteBoxe. And I'll also be using their diffusion filters as well. And I'll be doing a proper video on these filters in the future because they're great. I really recommend them. So for super crazy run and gun work, I'll probably whip the MatteBoxe off and rely on something like my HMY Revo Ring Variable ND because it's a bit quicker to work with. It's just more suited to working in fast-paced environments, especially if I'm working without an assistant or working on my own. Anyway, that's a little tour of my Slinky S5 Mark IIX compact CINE-RIG. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. I'm really interested how other people are going to be rigging their cameras up and whether people are going to be picking this camera up over the standard Mark II. I'm going to be covering this in more detail, you know, which you should go for, which is better for which type of people. Stay tuned for that. But if there's anything you'd like to see specifically in that review video, then obviously do let me know in the comments down below and I'll try and incorporate it into my review video. I'm MatteBoxe, and until next time, see ya!